Hello there guys, welcome back to Younes Talks Football, welcome back to a brand new video. I hope all of you are doing well today. Video number 2 of 2. I've given you my first video earlier on in the day talking about Antonio Conte and Spurs and the fact that it's looking like he just wants to leave now and, you know, give him the money and let him go, basically. That's what he's coming out to say. Just, you know, pay me and let me leave this travesty, indirectly. Anyway, I gave you my thoughts on that. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link for that video right here. Make sure you click on that if you haven't seen it already and check it out after you're done with this. Before we get into today's video, I want to let you know it's brought to you and sponsored by the OneFootball app. Make sure you download the OneFootball app, links in the description for all of your footballing needs, your news, your latest. Today's a flipping day with tons of news. Let's have it right. So if you do want to go and check it out, hit that link in the description, download the OneFootball app and get all of your footballing needs there. Enjoy. Now, let's get into this. I've got 3 things to discuss with you guys today. The agenda is packed. We're going to start off with the first one, which is the Champions League final. I'm going to hover on this point very briefly and show you guys just what's gone down. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Roman Abramovich in a bit. So again, if you've been living under a rock, you wouldn't have seen. I'd be seriously surprised. But there's been a severe issue going on in Ukraine because of Russian forces coming in from all directions and doing a madness, basically. And as a result of that, there are sanctions now being prepared and declared and announced and whatnot. But the Champions League final is being moved from St. Petersburg away from Russia, and the venue will be determined. I'm guessing tomorrow UEFA will declare where they're looking to put the Champions League final and host it. So here's the confirmation on Sky Sports. UEFA to move Champions League final from Russia due to Ukraine crisis as President Alexander Sefrin calls extraordinary meeting of executive committee. And it goes on to confirm that UEFA have decided to move the Champions League final away from St. Petersburg as the ongoing crisis in Ukraine is ongoing, basically. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. And if there are any announcements as to where that's going to be played, you know, we don't know. There's calls for Wembley, but I don't think that's going to happen because the date of the Champions League final is bang on the date with, I think, the League One and the League Two playoff finals. So I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll wait and see, though. We'll wait and see. Things can be moved. Things can be rearranged. So we'll get into that. Second topic of the video, obviously leading on from what has happened to date in Ukraine with the Russians coming in for whatever reason they've come in. I'm not going to start talking in detail as to why what's happened today has happened, but it's happened. So there's talk of sanctions. There's talk of that the UK, the US, the EU, as well as other countries are looking to come collectively together and impose possibly the worst economic sanctions that we've ever seen on a nation. And Russia are going to be hit severely. Now, we've heard Boris Johnson in this country come out in the Commons literally about 15 minutes ago from the recording of this video, talking about sanctions being put onto Russia. He mentioned Russian oligarchs. Roman Abramovich wasn't mentioned in name, but he's definitely within the bracket. But what happened earlier on, if, you know, we're talking about something crazy happening, this, started getting rumoured and the news came out earlier on this morning. I'll tell you and I'll show you exactly what's gone down. There was a Labour MP, Chris Bryant, in the United Kingdom House of Commons, right, in Parliament, where he spoke and mentioned a leaked document, a leaked paper from 2019 involving Roman Abramovich. I'm going to fill you in with the cliff notes. Let's get into it and see what Chris Bryant himself has actually said. So, Labour MP Chris Bryant told the House of Commons, following some of the reports in The Sun and other newspapers today, I've got hold of a leaked document from 2019 from the Home Office, which says in relation to Mr. Abramovich, as part of Her Majesty government's Russia strategy, aimed at targeting illicit finance and malign activity, Abramovich remains of interest to Her Majesty's government, HMG, due to his links to the Russian state and his public association with corrupt activity and practices. An example of this is Abramovich admitting in court proceedings that he paid for political influence. Therefore, HMG is focused on ensuring individuals linked to illicit finance and malign activity are unable to base themselves in the UK and will use the relevant tools at its disposal, including immigration powers, to prevent this. That's nearly 3 years ago, and yet remarkably little has been done in relation. Surely Mr. Abramovich should no longer be able to own a football club in this country. Surely we should be looking at seizing some of his assets, including his £152 million home, and making sure that other people who've had tier 1 visas like this are not engaged in malign activity in the UK. And there's an article in The Sun that goes on to explain all of this in relation to Chris Bryant's remarks at the House of Commons. So, it's funny that they're saying, let's seize his £152 million home, which he can't live in. That's just one. But apparently what came out of this is that Roman Abramovich has been barred from living in the UK. But we already knew this. He wasn't even allowed to come into the country. And it hasn't been for a few years. At least in order to work. Now, a few months ago, he did manage to come into the country on the basis that he's an Israeli citizen and was at Stamford Bridge, not on work duty, but just as a visit. Now, that is definitely not going to be allowed anymore, without question, because of these sanctions. But in relation to seizing Chelsea Football Club, you're probably asking, can the government seize Chelsea Football Club from Roman Abramovich? Theoretically, yes. And this is where it gets a bit crazy. This is where it gets a bit mad. But if we're talking by theory, yes, his assets can be seized and frozen. And that could include Chelsea Football Club. Now, I've seen all sorts of other fans from other clubs talking today. Yeah, do it. Take Chelsea away from him. Yeah, it's going to be great. Like, no, that's not how it works. Let's have it right. If we're talking about Abramovich's impact on Chelsea Football Club, the damage has been done, as they say, right? He's owned Chelsea since 2003, right? It's been nearly 20 years. His money that he's invested, everything that's been put into the club has put Chelsea on the map as one of the biggest football clubs on the planet. That won't get undone, let's say. That won't be reversed because Chelsea's been frozen from him. No. Chelsea is now established as Chelsea Football Club, one of the richest, highest, football clubs on the planet. That can't be undone, even at worst case scenario, if Chelsea were taken away from him. Because Chelsea have now set themselves up a nice structure where we are self-sufficient, where we do generate a very good amount of income, where we are able to function the club, and everyone in the club that works for Chelsea, player all the way down to cleaner, gets paid and everything's good with the money that they generate themselves. So even if Roman was to get cut off now, Chelsea, no impact whatsoever. But in the long run, in terms of transfers, in terms of being able to inject money if we need it, for whatever reason, well, yeah, that might not be there anymore. If Roman was to be cut off from his asset, which is Chelsea Football Club. Now, again, in the long run, because Chelsea is such a well-established football club now in terms of the highest, football clubs in world football, you'd think that, again, I speak worst case scenario, that someone will come in and buy the club, right? But the problem... this is where it gets a little bit sour. The problem is if Chelsea were to get seized from Roman and in the long run it gets taken away from him and he no longer owns Chelsea Football Club, well, at that point, I think Chelsea would be down to administrators because we wouldn't have an owner. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that. That's just my understanding. In the long run, we could get some nobody that picks up Chelsea on the cheap. That could be the worst thing, where a Mike Ashley, for example, were to walk in and buy Chelsea Football Club. You don't want that. You don't want that. But in the short-term vision, Chelsea wouldn't be affected by this. And we've got confirmation of this, which I'm about to show you now. So here it is. Check this out. We've got an edit from The Sun, this article. that was written by Martin Lipton today, saying Chelsea will not feel financial impact even if Roman Abramovich is placed on the UK Russia sanctions list. And it goes on to explain how Chelsea won't suffer any immediate problems even if owner Abramovich was placed on a sanction list. If he were to be impacted, yet Chelsea wouldn't be hurt. Let's just say that they won't be hurt at all. And we've got confirmation of all this by Martin Lipton again, where in just a brief form, sources close to Roman Abramovich insist he has done nothing that would make him liable to sanctions, but even if it were to happen, it's understood to be unlikely that there would be any impact on Chelsea Football Club. So we're good in terms of that. Legal experts believe that the government would agree an official carve-out of Chelsea from any prospective actions to avoid significant impact on a club that employs hundreds of people and is supported by thousands, and that would mean Chelsea could continue as a business, including receiving future broadcast money from the Premier League and UEFA and paying out wages to staff. So Chelsea won't be impacted in the long run. Let's have it right. In terms of as a business, Chelsea are fine. But the worst case scenario, this is the worst case scenario, is Roman might not be Chelsea owner anymore. That's the worst case scenario. If Chelsea were to be seized from Roman and Roman can't get Chelsea back. Obviously, with what we're seeing now happening in Ukraine and what's happened, I mean, flipping hell, this could be bad. This could be very, very bad. And I speak for all of us. All of us. Even if the people already in Ukraine and even in Russia and all that region that are already impacted, that's bad enough. I'm talking about the world now. This could have significant implications for all of us. So, yeah. In terms of Roman being cut off from Chelsea Football Club, it is a possibility. It is. So we'll see what happens, especially the fact that we know Roman has had a relationship with Vladimir Putin. We know that he has admitted, of course, in the past, being able to inject money into Putin's election campaign. I mean, yeah, that sets Abramovich up for sanction. It probably would do. But in terms of him and what he has done in the UK, well, he's done nothing wrong. So we'll see what happens in terms of, you know, the way politics runs nowadays, financial impact in terms of, you know, financial interests. We'll see. If there's financial interests and it means that having to protect Chelsea is one of them, then Chelsea will be protected. If it isn't, then it won't. But we'll see what happens, and we'll see what sanctions are put out by Boris and by the government in relation to the Russian oligarchs. Now, to end the video on some good news, let's end it on some good news, shall we? Because this is great. I was waiting to hear this, and I'm very happy. Check this out. So, Nathan Gizing, sorry. He is the CFC news page on Instagram. So if you know CFC news page, he has very good inside sources connected to the team. He has come out and said, I understand Kovacic and Ziyech's injuries are nothing serious. They are both fine. Both picked up impact injuries. Kovacic got a kick in the back and Ziyech a kick to his Achilles. Reece James and Hudson-Odoi are all set to return to team training today. So that's great news. In the lead up to the final on Sunday against Liverpool, Ziyech will be available. Kovacic will be available. Hudson-Odoi will more than likely be available. But even Reece James might be available. If he's returned to team training today, he's got tomorrow, Saturday, and then Sunday. He might get a spot on the bench. Might. We'll see. But Ziyech, Kovacic, looking good. Nothing's wrong. Thank goodness. No injury. We're great. So Sunday, Liverpool, bring it on. But, yeah, that wraps up today's video. As I've said, to wrap it all up into one basic phrase, don't worry. It'll be okay. Chelsea will be okay. It's fine. But in the long run, yes, we might lose Roman as an owner. It's a possibility. We might not, but we also might. So we'll see what happens. But also Ziyech, Kovacic back for Chelsea. And the Champions League final moved from St. Petersburg. And we'll see where it's going to be moved to by tomorrow, I think. So we'll see. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your opinions on all 3 points that I've mentioned today. Let me know below. Much appreciated. Hit the subscribe button if you are new. Hit the notification bell to be notified once I've uploaded. Smash like button if you've enjoyed this. Don't forget to download the OneFootball app. Link in the description. Go there now. Check out my video from earlier on. I'll see all of you tomorrow for a new one. Have a good one, people. See you tomorrow. Take care and peace.